So, well, hello, my name is Hector Vargas. I am a Mexican artist, a visual artist, and I am here presenting my very first solo show in Europe, which is called Guapo. Guapo stands in Cuba for brave. So, as this is a show focusing on the image of Fidel Castro, and I think that he is very brave, that's why we decided to call the show Guapo. I want to start I want to make a little tour through the show, and I will have to start with the image poster, which is this one. The name of this piece is Mano 59, which in English would be Hand 59, and it is a direct reference to a gesture that Fidel Castro has when he makes speeches, and it's doing like this. So he's known in Cuba as La Mano. So that's why this is the poster image. Now, what you are going to see next is practically created only for this gallery, for Havana Kunsthandel, except for 3 works, and I will explain that. The most important part of the show to me is these 3. You're now seeing just one, but there are 3 big drawings that are 2 meters length and 2 meters long, and they show 3 very important moments in the history of the Cuban Revolution. This one is my favorite. It's El Asalto al Moncada. Is the very first one I did, and it was really difficult for me to achieve this result. This drawing tries to tell the story, or tries to make a reference to that day on which Fidel Castro and his troopers tried to take control of the island by assaulting the Moncada military base, and they failed. So Fidel Castro went to jail, and it was a disaster. He got expelled from Cuba and went to Mexico to prepare the revolution, and there he met Che Guevara, and they get inside the Granma, which was the boat they took in Veracruz, to return to Cuba and make the revolution. Granma is the name of the newspaper in Cuba, the official newspaper. These works have a very fun story, and they present situations that were narrated to me by a Cuban. The day on which these newspapers were purchased, I was in Cuba, and I prepared these 3 pieces and a painting that you will see, in order to show in my first solo show in Havana, but the committees were not sure about showing these works because they are highly political, just because they are drawn in the Granma newspaper, or on the Granma newspaper. The cow means something, the crocodile means a lot, the goat means something, and the missile means a lot. Then I made this version of a blank Granma newspaper with something that Cubans have to face every day, which is eat chicken instead of fish. In Cuba, the expression is pollo por pescado. Hoy viene pollo por pescado, which means today we're going to give you chicken instead of fish, but with the hope that the next time you can get fish, but they have 40 years without getting almost any fish. Now we can see the second large drawing. This is called Bahía de Cochinos. And this happened, I think, in 1961, when the United States of America tried, by using a Cuban army, a Cuban small army, to recover the control of the island of Cuba. And this crocodile represents Fidel Castro and the people of Cuba. Because you know, Cuba is related always with a crocodile because of its form. I mean, its geological form looks like an alligator or a crocodile. And one of the ways that you can refer to Fidel Castro is a crocodile. So these pigs represent the United States interests, the interests of the imperialism, and they are being slayed and destroyed by this majestic, beautiful crocodile. And well, they are pigs because happily the name of the place on which this thing took part is Bahía de Cochinos, which can be translated as the Bay of the Pigs. Then we have these versions of the cow. This is not directly related to Fidel Castro, but it's related to the situation in Cuba. And it's very difficult in Cuba to get meat, beef. So the cows became a sacred animal. So the name of this work is Sacred Cow, and we have this studio, or this very first version of it, drawn with China ink on paper, and I am working now second version on acrylic while I am here in Denmark. Now we get to my favorite piece of the show, which is a drawing I took maybe 2 or 3 weeks to achieve, and it's called The Big Crocodile Cluster, or 6 Decades, and each crocodile represents a decade of the triumph of the revolution. Then, following this, we get to the third big drawing, which is this one. It's the clearest one and is the most concrete of all drawings. It's called the Missile Crisis. I mean, and the meaning is very, very clear. And then we have the second censored work, which is this crocodile. It's an oil painting, and this is not my vision. This is the vision of a Cuban writer, an author named Guillermo Cabrera Infante. Guillermo Cabrera Infante, which just died maybe 2 years ago, lived almost all his life in London because he got expelled from Cuba because of his beliefs on the revolution. And he referred to Fidel Castro as a big crocodile. And as you can see, the first part, or I mean the top of the head of this crocodile is the profile of the island of Cuba, actually. And then we have the last 2 pieces that are directly related to Fidel, which are these ones. This is the skeleton of a rooster, and this is a portrait of a very angry Fidel Castro with chicken breasts all over him. And this makes reference to, not clear, because that work, the name of the work is Psiquitrimaniaco, maybe Cubans don't use it anymore, I don't know. And it makes reference to the expropriation of the land before and after the revolution. And the last 2 pieces of the show are this oil painting, which is an image I saw in Cuba. It's called Das grosse cubanische Pathos, or Santeria, and it's an offering for the gods. You can find these things in Cuba quite often. And this, that is homage to José Bedia, which is a painter I like a lot, and a Cuban painter, and it's called Bedia Sere, or the Chaman, and it can be kind of related with the Santeria and the beliefs of the Cuban people. So that's all the show, and I am very happy to be here presenting this, and I hope you like it as I did. Thank you very much, and take care.